Welcome back everybody. In this lecture we will discuss about types of schedulers. So coming to schedulers, the definition of scheduler is it is a software. It is an operating system software. It is used for process scheduling. Why? Because in our computer systems we will have only one processor and there will be many processes which needs to be executed. For that purpose, to select which process to execute next, we will use schedulers. So there will be three types of schedulers: long-term scheduler, short-term scheduler, and medium-term scheduler. But the definitions also given. Long-term scheduler means generally the processes will be in the secondary storage, or we call it as a secondary memory hard disk. And these processes, before executing, they will be called as program. So they will be stored in the job queue of secondary storage. For execution purpose, the CPU needs them to be stored in the main memory. Why? Because secondary memory is very slower and main memory is faster. Since CPU is a fast device, it will take the processes from main memory, which is a faster. So the long-term scheduler will moves the processes from secondary memory into to main memory. This is the job of long-term scheduler. It is also called as job scheduler. So as we have discussed, for example, consider, okay, this is our secondary storage. This is our secondary storage. One more name also given for secondary storage. It is called as job pool, also called as job queue. It will consist of all the programs which are ready to execute, which needs to be executed. Since it is a queue, we are drawing like this. So the principle of queue is first in first out, which will be loaded first, that will be executed first. This is the normal criteria for the queue. Okay, so this is the secondary memory. So it will be loaded into the ready queue. Ready queue will be stored in main memory, right? So this is our ready queue, right? So who will load the processes from secondary memory to ready queue? That is our long-term scheduler. Long-term scheduler will loads the processes from secondary memory to main memory, or from job queue to ready queue. For example, consider we are having jobs like this. J1 is the first job, then J2 is the second job, for example, right? J3 is the third job. Three jobs we are having. We are having the long-term scheduler. Long-term scheduler. So its task is to load the process or load the jobs from secondary memory to ready queue. In the normal condition or in the default condition, the first process or the first program is J1. So it will load J1 here in the ready queue. Since J1 only is there, so J1 will be selected for execution. So this is the task of long-term scheduler. It will load the processes from secondary storage or job pool. We can also call it as job queue. It will load into the ready queue. Okay. So coming to short-term scheduler, so it will select the processes. Sorry, here this is. It will select the processes from ready queue to execute on CPU. At a time in the ready queue, there can be many processes. For example, we are having here uh, J0 is there. Consider where let them we will call them as processes. So we will represent by P. So P0 is there, for example, right? So P1, this is our second process, and P3, right? So CPU is a device. It is a very faster device. So it will execute the processes. So which one it will execute first? Based on the queue, the default condition of the queue is the first one first out. So in the queue, for example, consider P naught executed, P naught loaded first. So it will select P naught for execution on CPU. So this loading of process for execution from ready queue to CPU will be done by what we call our short-term scheduler. Short-term scheduler. One more scheduler also we have. One more name for short-term scheduler is we have given it is CPU scheduler. Short-term scheduler is also having one more name. Its name is CPU scheduler. Medium-term scheduler. One more scheduler we have, that is uh, medium-term scheduler. It is also called as swapping scheduler. What is the use of this? Very simple. Consider there are job queue, ready queue is already filled. So it will consist of the processes which are ready to execute. For example, consider one process which is executing is halted. For example, here P0 is executing on the CPU, right? For example, what happens? It needs some IO device, input output device. So it cannot continue its execution. So this process will be blocked or suspended. Why? Because it will be waited for the input output device. So CPU, the operating system, it will remove this process from the ready queue and loads into the job queue back. So this will be done by the swaps medium term scheduler, right? Medium term scheduler. One more name for medium term scheduler is swapping scheduler. So the brief of this lecture is the scheduler means it is the software which will select the processes for execution. So we are having, as we said, three types of schedulers we have. Second, long term scheduler, and short term scheduler, medium term scheduler. Long term scheduler, it will select the programs from secondary memory, secondary storage, which is also called as job pool or job queue, and it will load into main memory. Main memory will consist of a queue called as ready queue. uh, Short term scheduler will select the processes which are in ready queue for execution. CPU will select the processes from ready queue. This will be done by short-term scheduler. At the time of execution or during the execution, the process may need some input-output device, or it may wait for some event to happen. So at the time of waiting, it will be called as blocked or suspended. During this time, it will be moved out of ready queue to the secondary storage. This is called as swap out, right? So later, right, when its IO device is it got the IO device, it will be loaded into main memory again. This is called as swapping. Here one more important thing is there, that is called as dispatcher. That is called as dispatcher. What is dispatcher? It is very simple. The dispatcher is a software again. It will give the control of CPU to the process which is selected from ready queue for execution. This is the task of dispatcher, right? So selected process, it will give the CPU to the selected process. So this is about the types of schedulers. More detailedly about the type of schedulings, the scheduling algorithms, we will discuss in our coming lecture. So kindly stay tuned. Thank you all. Thank you very much.